There are times where I really go out there and start praising the heavens that the Hockey Now series of articles does exist. Because once in a while they go over things that I really would not have caught if I was just rolling through my regular list of sites, Reddit, Twitter, some other things popping up in there once in a while. There's really only Reddit and Twitter, to be honest, but the Hockey Now series of articles has topics that really extend past the modern, regular NHL discourse. So, big shout out over to those guys for publishing a piece that caught my attention, and that was good enough that I was like, I want to make a video about that. So, let's go over and talk about a former New York Ranger, Anders Hedberg. Now, for many NHL fans that aren't really too in tune with their 80s NHL knowledge, you probably looked at this and they were like, wait a minute, who the hell's that? Anders Hedberg is a 71-year-old former NHL player. He played for the Rangers from 78 up until 85, wherein he posted a total of 397 points in 465 games. He also was a part of the Classic Jets in the WHA, posting up 4 straight 100-point years with that team. He is, for all intents and purposes, a pretty good NHL veteran of the past. But the reason we're talking about him here today is because he actually called out Lucas Raymond of the Detroit Red Wings, and it was a pretty dramatic sort of thing that I feel, which is why we are going to be talking about it in this video. So, the article was published yesterday on Detroit Hockey Now by Bob Duff. Swedish legend Hedberg is taking a shot at Lucas Raymond, or it actually says here, taking Raymond to task. I don't really like that title, so I changed it on the fly myself. Swedish legend Anders Hedberg thinks the Red Wings forward Lucas Raymond should have played for Sweden at the World Juniors. So this is kind of the conversation we're talking about here. The 2022 World Juniors took place in August, and you had yourselves a few guys on Team Sweden who did not actually participate that were eligible to play in the tourney. Hedberg's main critique is that Lucas Raymond, current Red Wings guy and absolute superstar of a young player, should have been part of that squad. Take a look at what this article goes out there and says. Among the first Swedish players to make a name for himself in the North American game, Hedberg never forgets his roots. He was always ready to answer his country's call. Over his career, he would be donning the 3 crowns of the Swedish national team at the World Junior Championship. He also would suit up for 3 IIHF World Championships and a pair of Canada Cups. This is where Hedberg's problems with Raymond originate. In an interview with Swedish website Aftonbladet, Hedberg is taking Raymond to task for passing on last month's World Juniors. He's especially disappointed in the young Red Wings player for skipping last spring's World Championship tournament in Finland too. Here is his quote translated into English. The 3 best Swedish players did not participate in the JVM, which is the junior tournament pretty much, even though the NHL is several months away, Hedberg started out. Raymond, Holtz of the Devils, and William Ekelund of the Sharks all skipped out on the tourney. What really irks Hedberg, though, is that Raymond, after originally agreeing to play, ended up opting out of the World Tourney. His reasoning was that he was worn out after a long NHL rookie season. We had a Swede in Detroit who did not play the World Championship last spring because he was too tired, Hedberg noted, referring to Raymond. A 35-year-old with 3 children at home? I understand that, but a 20-year-old should be able to get to a World Championship final. If he's too tired, then he's up too much at night. For my generation, the Swedish national team was the most important thing there was. Without competition, I think that Swedish ice hockey must get better at pushing that line. Of course, the individual's freedom is inviolable. Inviolable? Inviolable. I think that's correct. I'm not too sure. I've never heard that word before. But these players would never have become as good as they have become, got to where they got to, if they hadn't received their education here. If they hadn't been allowed to spend every day together in junior national teams with other talented players. Shouldn't more people realize that you have a responsibility to pay back for that teaching? You do that by standing up for the national team. And, yeah, this is kind of what I was talking about when I said that the Hockey Now series of articles goes out there and talks about things that I probably would not have seen otherwise. Who saw this coming? A former NHL veteran of the 80s calling out Lucas Raymond, saying that the guy is probably not doing his part to fulfill and pay back what it was that Sweden gave to him as a hockey player in education and hockey IQ and hockey development? That's kind of wild, man, honestly. Like, when it comes to NHL players, and I say NHL players because the only ones that really skipped out on the World Juniors in August were NHL caliber guys. You have the Shane Wrights and the Owen Powers of the world, not to mention the guys like, as we said, Holtz and Raymond and William Eklund, guys that might have themselves a pretty good chance at actually making the dance when everything comes and goes in October. When it comes to those players, I mean, the common argument that we had seen for everybody was that they're trying to use this extra time in August to hopefully rest up for the season and follow proper training plans. You have a guy like Juraj Slafkovsky who didn't play for Team Slovakia at the World Juniors because, hey, he's got a life to adjust to in Montreal, and he wanted to use every second available to him to be able to fulfill that. You have yourselves the teammate of his that didn't participate either, Philip Meshar, 2 Montreal Canadiens guys that did not participate in the August World Juniors. Now, for Raymond, it's a little bit different because he had already made the NHL and he already played a full season, so he's not really on the cusp of breaking out like some of these other younger guys are, but Raymond wasn't part of the tournament back in January. I get that it might be a little bit flaky of him to be able to say, okay, yeah, I'll play in August and then have him bail out. But at the same time, his reasoning makes sense. Now, this article on Detroit Hockey Now goes out there and pulls devil's advocate. It says here at the end that Raymond cannot be held responsible for skipping the World Juniors. That choice was at the behest of the Red Wings. However, his decision to pass on last spring's Worlds is another matter. Hedberg's reasoning is valid. If Raymond was too tired to represent his country because of the long NHL season, what would he have done if the Red Wings made the playoffs last year? And I don't know, I feel like that's not really all too fair of a comparison to make because when it comes to the World Juniors versus the Stanley Cup Playoffs, one of them is the first stepping stone towards being cemented in the NHL lore as one of the greats, and the other is the World Juniors. Like, I'm sorry, but the World Juniors is a thing that Lucas Raymond has already participated in quite a lot over the past few years. He has played in 2 prior World Juniors, and he was pretty good in those tournaments. So I could understand if he's not chomping at the bit to go out there and get yet another taste of World Junior action. Especially after playing in the NHL already, it's like, okay, he'd be kind of regressing if he went to the World Juniors, to be honest. He would go out there and probably get 4 points a game. Like, it would be fun for Red Wings fans to go out there and watch, but does that really help out his development more than if he just stuck around, maybe did some off-season training, worked on things he needed to work on, and rested up for October and the new NHL season? Furthermore, where the heck is the call-out to Alexander Holtz and William Eklund? Hedberg goes out there and talks about Raymond specifically, but he doesn't really, at least from my limited viewing of this article, he doesn't go out there and label any of the other guys as being irresponsible and everything too. He just takes a shot at Raymond saying, no, the guy needs to sleep more. He spends too much time awake at night because he's too tired. Oh, that's the reason he's missing out. You know, the World Juniors is super important, right? So why are you missing out? I don't know, you can talk to the comments on your thoughts about Lucas Raymond and the idea of him skipping out on the August World Junior Tournament that had just come and go. Do you think it's too big of a deal to the point that it probably should have been called out in the way that it was here? I don't believe it was. I believe Raymond pretty much had the right to go out there and say no, since I don't think a tournament like this would have really helped his own career's worth of development going forward. I mean, sure, he probably would have put up a lot of numbers, but what if he gets injured? Like, the Kirby Dach thing from a few years ago was really bad, where Dach was looking to be really good, and then he got injured for a good chunk of the season while participating in a World Junior, like, pre-tournament game. So, all precautions necessary, I feel. The World Juniors wasn't really all too important, in my opinion, for Lucas Raymond specifically. For other guys that are younger, I get it. You want to go out there and prove yourself on a bigger stage, but for Raymond, he'd already participated so much, and he had been playing NHL competition the whole year, that I don't really think this was all too important for him. But talk to me in the comments either way, all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.